because I was asking Ghislaine.
More pressure on the Met Police and Prince Andrew as we go into the final part of the Maxwell trial.
Hey everyone.
If this is the second video that you're watching of mine, please click the subscribe button. After several weeks of debate and deliberation between the prosecution, defense, the judge and the jury, a decision has finally been made on Ghislaine Maxwell, and it's going to have far-reaching effects both on Prince Andrew and the Met Police. Maxwell obviously pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges. After 40 hours of deliberation, the jury found her guilty of 5 charges. Count 1, conspiracy to entice a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. Count 3, conspiracy to transport a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Count 4, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Count 5, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of minors. Count 6, sex trafficking of minors. Obviously a great result for justice, and we will talk about what the retired Florida police chief said about all of this shortly. Prince Andrew has also got a court case taking place in New York, as well as what is Donald Trump going to do? Because Trump on 2 occasions wished her well. Let's have a look at Prince Andrew first. The Prince had a nightmare interview on BBC Newsnight, but if the line wasn't bad enough, one of his go-to defences in that interview was that he was inviting Maxwell, not Epstein, and Epstein was a +1. But now that she's been convicted, this is going to add pressure, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if that interview footage was used in the preceding court case. Let's have a listen to Andrew defend himself.
All of this goes back to your friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. How did you first become friends? How did you meet?
Well, I met through his girlfriend back in 1999, and I'd known her since she was at university in the UK.
She studied at Oxford at Balliol with Boris Johnson. I think it's about time that Thames Valley Police also begin an investigation into this.
He was your guest as well. In 2000, Epstein was a guest at Windsor Castle and at Sandringham. He was brought right into the heart of the royal family at your invitation.
But certainly at my invitation, not at the royal family's invitation. But remember that it was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the, as it were, +1 to some extent in that aspect.
Am I right in thinking you threw a birthday party for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, at Sandringham?
No, it was a shooting weekend.
A shooting weekend?
Just a straightforward shooting weekend.
But during these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle, at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing. And certainly, when I saw him either in the United States, when I saw him in the United States, or when I was staying in his houses in the United States, there was no indication, absolutely no indication.
It's interesting that you hear this from him, that there's no indication, because if you listen to my other videos and what the witnesses had to say, you'll hear them quote, there were loads of naked pictures of girls all over the house in Florida. Does he stay there? Yes, and we've got evidence of that in the interview. But to give the benefit of the doubt, it's possible those pictures were taken down.
And if there was, you have to remember that at the time, I was patron of the NSPCC's Full Stop campaign, so I was close up with what was going on in those time about getting rid of abuse to children. So I knew what the things were to look for, but I never saw them.
So you would have made that connection because you stayed with him, you were a visitor, a guest on many occasions at his homes, and nothing struck you as suspicious?
Nothing.
During that whole time?
Nothing.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane?
Yes.
You've been to stay on his private island?
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach?
Yes.
You've visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London?
Yes.
He certainly has been to that house, and we have some very interesting evidence from this picture, which I'm going to zoom out of now. You'll note in the picture there are some oddities. Giuffre's hand isn't actually touching her hip, it's about to. On the right hand corner, you can just make out a finger over the lens. The photo isn't at a straight angle, it hasn't been prepared. So there's 3 indicators in there that this is all last minute, which would suggest that it's probably Epstein taking the photo, and he's seen a perfect opportunity for blackmail.
So in 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you do that?
Because I was asking Ghislaine.
His defence is circling around the fact that Ghislaine is innocent, and now she's no longer innocent. I'm just going to add as well, there was a point brought up about New York which was quite interesting, and for some reason the video footage that was recorded from his time and trip to New York wasn't mentioned. The interview goes from bad to worse because Prince Andrew suggests that he doesn't see any young ladies, and he doesn't seem to give any indication that he even talks to them if he did see them. And we've got video footage of Prince Andrew waving goodbye to someone at the door.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls. And you were there, staying in his house, catching up with friends.
I mean, if they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. I never saw them. I mean, you have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that because I really don't know.
Except we do know because we've got video footage, as you just saw, of Andrew waving goodbye to a girl at the front door of Epstein's house.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent. Now, he described
Really?
seeing you there.
What a weird and really creepy response. Like he's been caught out or something.
Getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
No.
You're absolutely sure, or
Yeah.
you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false.
Well, I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Going back to the trial, there was an interesting response from the retired police chief of Palm Beach, Florida, into what had happened with Epstein. In 2005, early in our investigation, the Palm Beach Police Department recognized the importance of stopping Jeffrey Epstein and bringing him to justice. The department never bent to the power and influence to bear against us. Unfortunately, of the many other agencies involved, only the FBI acted in a similar way. The US Attorney's Office in South District of New York should be congratulated for having the courage to bring Epstein and now Ghislaine Maxwell to justice, something that should have been done in the Florida case 15 years ago. The importance of the failure of the Florida case cannot be overstated. The United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit began its opinion concerning the rights of Epstein's victims by stating, "The facts underlying this case, as we understand them, are beyond scandalous. They tell a tale of national disgrace." Now that the courts have spoken, I hope and pray that the professionals in our justice system learn from this case. Law school professors should teach this case in legal ethics courses as examples of how not to treat victims of sex crimes, and as a forewarning to prosecutors on how they can be influenced to fail in their duties to both victims and the public. Even though a child cannot legally consent to sex with an adult, Florida prosecutors charged Epstein with procuring a child for prostitution, which served to label the victims as prostitutes and minimize the seriousness of the crimes against the children. Even the FBI classified their investigation of Epstein as child prostitution. The use of this term child prostitution should be banished from our laws and our lexicon. Finally, this case is a lesson in what can happen when good people look the other way and pretend that they did not see something they know is wrong and dangerous. After Epstein's arrest in 2006, there were many people who told the Palm Beach Police Department that they observed Epstein with female children in suspicious circumstances, yet they did not report it at the time even though systems were in place to do so anonymously. Effective protection of society's most vulnerable requires the public to notify law enforcement when the suspected criminal activity is observed and for law enforcement to fully investigate the reported information. It is equally incumbent that prosecutors act responsibly in prosecuting where appropriate. Failure of law enforcement and prosecutors to do so without the regard of the power, wealth, or influence of the suspect is a violation of their oath of office and moral responsibility. Another person who has had significant power in history, Donald Trump, has obviously got connections with Epstein, and he came out with some very interesting comments as president. But before that, I want to say a big thank you to all my patrons who help make this channel possible. Let's have a listen to what Donald Trump had to say about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and so a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
So that comment about Prince Andrew piqued my interest, the one saying, oh, you made comment about him, not knowing him. Well, this is interesting, and here's the clip.
I don't know Prince Andrew. But it's a tough story. It's a very tough story. I don't know him, no.
Which is interesting, because if you dig around enough, you'll find loads of photos online of Donald Trump with current wife Melania there, and Prince Andrew, and at the same party, Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. You'll even see clips of him in June meeting with Prince Andrew. What I found more interesting is another clip where Trump doubles down on him defending Maxwell and his best wishes speech to her.
Day a reporter asked you about Ghislaine Maxwell. You said, quote, I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, but I wish her well, whatever it is. Mr. President, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person well?
First of all, I don't know that, but I do know that
She has. She's been arrested for that. You know
her
that.
friend or boyfriend
Epstein.
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that
Oh, so you're saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody. And they took that and
I mean, she's a
made it
alleged child sex
such a
trafficker.
big deal. But all it is her boyfriend died. He died in jail. Was he killed? Was it suicide? I do. I wish her well.
The next thing's going to obviously be the court case with Prince Andrew, which will be taking place in New York. As for Maxwell, the final thing is for the judge to decide how long she should remain in prison. There are still some open-ended questions. What's happened to the hard drive and other photos that were taken by the FBI or stashed away by Epstein and Maxwell? Why was Virginia Giuffre not called in front of this case? How far was Donald Trump involved? How far is Prince Andrew involved? The final thing is, why are the Metropolitan Police so staunchly refusing to investigate this, claiming there isn't enough evidence? Yet obviously we've now got two people who have visited Britain repeatedly, convicted of sex crimes and sex trafficking. If you have doubts as to why the Metropolitan Police should not be looking into this, check out my video where Crusader Dick lists out the requirements for an investigation. Hope you enjoyed my political observations this week. If you'd like to support me, please share the video with others and post about it on social media. If you're keen for more, subscribe, comment, like, and hit that notification button. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on Political X.